permanent residents can't petition for their parents. There's a rumor amongst his circle of government workers that immigrants are engaging in chain migration and bringing their entire families over when it's just not true. How can I petition to bring my cousin over, my aunts, my uncles, my nieces, my nephews, my grandparents? And the answer is you can't petition for them directly. To bring them over, you would need to petition for them indirectly. The only people for whom you could file an I-130 family petition for are spouses, children, parents, and in some instances, siblings. And sometimes you need to be a US citizen to file these petitions. Other times you need to be a permanent resident. For example, permanent residents can't petition for their parents, but US citizens can. So let's say you wanted to bring your grandparents over to the United States. You would need to be a US citizen. You would need to petition for your parents. Your parents would need to become permanent residents of the US. 5 years later, unless they qualify for an exception, they could apply for citizenship. And after they become citizens, now they can petition for their parents, your grandparents. So that's what I mean when I say you can't directly petition for grandparents or any of those other categories I talked about. It needs to be indirect. A lot of people have problems understanding this, and the biggest problem is how long it can take. So that example I gave of bringing over your grandparents, right? So first of all, you're petitioning for your parents. Let's say it takes them 2 years to come over to the US. Now they establish their permanent residency, and 5 years later, they could apply for citizenship. And that process probably takes up to a year. So far, from start to finish, we are currently at an 8-year processing time. And now, after they become citizens, they can petition for their parents, which will take longer. So like best case scenario here, we're probably looking at a 10-year timeline to bring your grandparents over. I recall during Trump's first presidential campaign, he made it a huge selling point that he wants to stop chain migration, stop all these immigrants from bringing their family members into the US. It's bad for America, whatever. And this caught on, even though it wasn't true. In fact, I have a friend who works for Customs and Border Protection. He literally works for an immigration government agency, and he believes to this day that you could petition for cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents. And, you know, to be fair, he deals with immigrants coming into the US, and he's dealing with a very narrow portion of the immigration law that deals with admissibility, removability, a very narrow section of the law. He's not dealing with family petitions, but it still amazes me that there's a rumor amongst his circle of government workers that immigrants are engaging in chain migration and bringing their entire families over when it's just not true. So if he can believe that, anyone can believe it. As you probably already know, immigration law can be really complicated. And if a federal immigration agent is confused about what the law says, I can only imagine how complicated it is for everybody else. If you want to bring your family members over to the United States, you should schedule a consultation with me. I will go through the family petition process, explain what the timeline looks like, and I'll file the petition for you. If you are considering doing it by yourself, I could also consult with you and help you create a strategy, timeline, and a game plan so that you have the highest probability of success. If you're new to my channel, check us out on a weekly basis. We put out new videos, and I'll see you guys next week for another one.